Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. I'm Dr. Doreen Downing, psychologist and host. And today I have a very special, innovative new approach that I'm using. And it's primarily because I'd like to introduce you not only to my mentor, Lee Glickstein, but also somebody who's been working with him recently, Michael Grant. Hi, Lee. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
What we're going to do today is highlight Michael's journey, not having a voice, and what he's been doing more recently to step up to some certain situations that I know he needed to show up for and how that happened. But I'd like to start, Michael, today with, because it really is about a journey, not having a voice to having a voice. Could you start with that kind of situation where you felt like, I need help. I just can't. Something's happening. I get afraid. Or what was going on for you? Let's start there.
Thank you, Doreen. And wonderful to be here with both of you and Lee as well, who I've just so enjoyed. That's a very broad question, and I'm going to I'll zoom way back to, we have a joke. It started in 1967, the year I was born. But really, when I was in high school was when it dawned on me that I froze public speaking. And I was in boarding school and I was trying to impress a girl I really liked. I was actually deeply in love with. And as I stood up there, everything just went blank. And I felt so much inadequacy and not enoughness that it's almost like my phobia was born right then and there. And
it was a moment that feels like it was crystallized in your psyche. And usually I go a little bit further back in history, like that probably wasn't the actual first time that you had discomfort.
Exactly.
But today is more about the journey to find your voice. And I'm glad that you actually put it in the context of, it was in terms of a relation, whether it was a personal relationship, but you were trying to show up and be, and it didn't happen. And there was a moment where you decided that was not only not comfortable, but it was painful. And therefore, so Michael, what was the therefore? You're not going to show up again. What was the therefore?
The conclusion I made then was, I'm going to have to guard myself. I'm going to have to find ways to protect and guard myself from this. And I also wanted to mirror exactly what you said. That's why I joked about it. Started in 1967. That's the year when I was born. Just knowing all that, starting from early lack of, I would say, co-regulation from my parents. So I know I've learned so much in the last maybe I've been working on myself a lot, but over the last 3 years, how those early periods, how much they formed me as a human being. But I don't want to dwell. I want to just fast forward all the way, but just to give that context, like the appreciation that I know.
Absolutely. I totally know. I'm a psychologist, and my belief is that those early formative years is where you come out first and go, hello. And people during the developmental phases, where you get really a good sense of healthy narcissism, which means, hey, look at me. They applaud back. But if they aren't doing that, then there is damage to your sense of being able to show up and express yourself fully. So, yeah, let's move forward
Okay.
to more recently before you found my friend and training partner Lee Glickstein.
Okay.
What was happening, and how did you find speaking circles?
I found speaking circles serendipitously. Just the timing was just wonderful. It was only maybe 8 weeks ago. And backing up a little before then, my uncle, Henry, who was also a friend, I think of him as a friend first and an uncle second, passed.
Mm.
And his, my cousins, my two cousins and his widow both all asked if I would, uh, master of ceremonies. I don't know a better term for that, but his memorial service that created the impetus to start to prepare myself, and also a lot of anxiety. Good. I said yes. I was ready, knowing my propensity to fall flat. I've been good at falling flat on my face
Oh.
and really freezing. And I was in a focusing. I'm also in a focusing online class with Ann Weiser Cornell, and they mentioned Barbara, and Ann mentioned Lee's work. So that was only about 4 weeks ago. And I jumped right on it. It just sounded so compelling. I bought the online book right away, and I started listening to Lee's narration. And here he is now. I mean, it's just so amazing that from one thing to another, to the book, to the narration, I really feel like I got to know Lee 20 years ago when he recorded this. And I'm still just getting to know the modern Lee, but that was transmuted because he's so intimate in that audio book. And
Yes.
it gave so much hope.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the history as well as the more recent kind of need to actually be able to show up at your uncle's memorial service. And that's often what happens, is that people have something in front of them. So there's more of a urgency or more of a need, and that pushes them to take action when they might not have before. So I'm glad you listened to yourself, and I'm glad you found Lee. Lee, I want to move to you. Hi. So in order to give a context for, what he might have heard in your, well, yeah, I guess you were reading your book. What is speaking circles? So that those who are listening today can say, "Wow, I want more of what he's having."
Well, speaking circles is an opportunity for people to find ease and comfort and eventually pleasure in receiving an audience. The problem isn't a block for people who have difficulty in front of groups. It's not a I found this out about 30 years ago. It's not a block in speaking, it's a block in receiving the available listening. So in speaking circles, of course, we leave it up to the listeners to do the main work, which is to be with that person eye to eye. And we have a way, as Michael knows, to do this on Zoom and to spend your turns. And sometimes we have 1 minute turns, 3 minute turns, 7 minute turns, 5 minute turns, whatever it is, to spend your time for the listeners to be available, and for the person up front, or the person whose turn it is, to have one priority only. And that priority is not to speak, not to have to speak. The priority is to receive the available listening. And when you do that with one person at a time and see that person so they feel seen, the listening comes to you and you begin to receive the listening. And when you receive listening, those of you who have a great therapist, or a great psychologist like Doreen, or a great coach, or a great friend, knows that when this person is listening well, receptively, you're smarter. Things come through because you're not uh, uh, resisting. You're not triggered by what's happened before in life when you've spoken. And little by little, you come systematically. And after a few circles, and Michael, I'm so amazed with you. I know you've been to a few circles with me and a few circles with Eric,
Right.
and you're dramatically finding a home in this virtual space.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what speaking circles are for, getting comfortable, based on, again, based on receiving the available. People are out there ready to listen if you're not fighting them by trying to get heard.
Oh, that's great. Not fighting them to be heard. In fact, knowing that the listening is there. So it's actually us listening to the listening, learning how to notice that people are really there. And even if they aren't there, there's a way that we listen that creates a better, deeper listening from them. And Lee, you just demonstrated, I think, one of the principles is when you were kind of showing us what listening looks like and paying attention to one person at a time. You took it was like a couple of beats right there. You didn't just keep on speaking. You went one person at a time, one person at a time. That space to actually receive the listening, I guess is what I'm saying. So, Michael, talk about your experience in speaking circles.
Speaking circles has only been, it's been wonderful. It was a way to anchor some of these things. I've only had maybe 6 circles. And I wouldn't even say that the meat that I got was really from Lee's book, of course, putting it into practice. And it, for me, was taking those lessons, exactly what Lee described here, and probably a half dozen more, and then putting them into this preparation for the memorial, for the actual memorial service. So that's where that was like this all the things that Lee has mentioned, this electrifying experience of trusting, and Lee's got some examples in the book, stepping out without notes, like I put my notes aside, and trusting the container and falling. I also had the image of a trust fall.
Mm-hmm, yes.
So treating the audience as a trust fall, where I wasn't pretending, I'm not performing, I'm showing up as a human being with my insecurities. I was ready if I did panic if I did freeze, I was ready to say, this is me, I'm frozen, I have this history, bear with, I'm asking for your patience.
Oh.
I was ready to move through it that way, but I really was so committed on being truthful to showing up however, and not pretending or posturing or performing.
So, Michael, you sent a report on what you did, on how that went. And Doreen and I read it. The people watching haven't. One of the things you wrote, and I said this was the most significant thing. I think you said something about a few times I choked. Is that the word you used?
Choked up.
Choked up, not choked like in a you choked.
Right.
And she said, I choked up, and that wasn't the problem.
Yeah, choked up in a good way.
In a good way. I said, that's it. Because some people would go, and they think, oh, I failed. And I say, well, I'm being me.
Right.
And it was, that sentence was the one that made me know that you had switched sides, and now knew how to make love to an audience.
That's right. Right. To come from a heart-centered, to be heart-centered, not mind-driven. Yes.
Oh, dropping down into your heart and trusting that words come up and through, as opposed from going to some bank in your head where you've got it all figured out and scripted and trying to go up and remember. Yeah, just letting all that go, dropping down, trusting.
Right.
Well, we've got a little bit of time today. What do you have some questions you'd like to pose?
Well, I know I'm committed. My wife and I both decided we want to start speaking circles right here locally in person. And so I definitely have questions, probably more technical than for a podcast, but I guess just on where to go. I know those are going to be available, the format for starting a speaking circle. So I would ask that to you, Lee, where you'd point me, because that's where I'll be headed to next.
To point you toward doing that with your wife?
Yes, locally and the organizational guideline.
Ah,
Well, as training director of Speaking Circles International, we have a training coming up in October. So we'll definitely send you the information for that. It would be lovely to include you since you're such an advocate. And that kind of being touched first by the transformation that's possible, then gives you the next level of, oh, I want to provide this for other people. I want to share it. And then the learning how, both the skill that we teach as well as the artfulness of it, I think is something that's going to be right up your alley, Michael. So we'll talk after this about next steps specifically for you and your wife, Lee.
Yeah. And the idea of you practicing with her a relational presence, perhaps using the mirror as we're doing now in my circles, and also bringing in a few friends and just, not announcing yourself as a certified facilitator, but just practicing with people. That's how you would get started.
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, let's look at, I'd like to hear from Michael the biggest breakthrough that you feel that you've taken from the work so far. Or one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've already talked about dropping down and speaking from your heart, trusting, because you had to be in front of people specifically, but it seems like in the actual experience of being in a speaking circle, what keeps you keep coming back?
Yeah. Okay, so it's this. First of all, it felt so good not to know the answer as you asked the question. So right there, being in the stillness of the question,
yes,
without a planned answer.
Yeah.
So that's been priceless. That's and then to answer the question, the answer that comes to me is heart-based awareness. And I had a little method that I wanted to share as the memorial was coming closer. And I had some ways, I had some drops, collapses into anxiety. Let's say at day 6 before the event, and then at day 3 before the event, both those times there was a collapse, like a panic. And Julia, my wife, even lost faith that I was going to pull this off, right?
Yeah.
And then each time when I came back from the low point, I was back in my heart and I knew I was going to do well. Okay, so here's the device that I found. As the event was going right up to the event, I had to be there 2 hours before. I had to be present for the folks bringing in the chairs, the catering, 120 people, outdoor tent, a lot of logistics there. I was seeing some people I hadn't seen in 20 years come up and say, Michael, well, and then they started to ask me where I lived. Okay, through all that, I knew I needed to stay in my heart and not go into kind of social small talk, which could take me to my head. And I kept these earbuds. I had kept over the ear earbuds on throughout that experience and played. I love kirtan music, which is like devotional heart music. And I had some downloaded recordings, and I could control that music in my ears as I was talking to somebody. And I would say, excuse me, I just need to retreat. And I really protected my zone through the music and through physically going off. And at one point I was sitting across by myself. And then I sat in the chair as people did gather, and I knew that my heart was forward and present, and I felt the tears were. It's not like I was trying to, right? I was just in touch with the poignancy, not tears of sadness, just tears of the poignancy of seeing fellow human beings coming together at this ceremony, and like that, like the common humanity.
Beautiful, beautiful demonstration of what it means to have somebody come and ask you a question, you taking your pause and reflecting, going inside of yourself and coming up with your moment of truth and not have anxiety about, oh, what should I say? What is she, how am I going to look? It was just more, oh, we have a moment here, a shared moment where I'm asking you a question, or Lee and I are providing space, listening, and you're listening to yourself.
Yeah.
And what the last thing I just want to say about this is the beauty of self-regulation. You found how to do that. Lee?
There's a turning point that I'm sure happened at the memorial that I see happening with you as you come to circles. And it's at the moment, this is the key moment where people switch over to the side, to the audience's side instead of being separate, is you come to the end of a sentence and you don't know what you're going to say next. And what you would ordinarily do, which you did when you started doing circles, is is I don't know what to say next. So you kind of go into this, you look around, you look up here, you want to come up with something because you don't know how to just be there without coming up with something. And then you get to the point where I know you got to in the memorial and you're getting to in the circle is you're being with somebody and you don't know what to say next. And instead of panicking,
Yeah.
little panic, little angst, you take a breath, maybe move to another person, take a breath, no rush, and allow the words to come when they are ready to come, knowing that the silences are poignant in themselves when they are relational. And
Hmm.
we call this capacity easy going in the not knowing, which is
Easy going in the not knowing. Isn't that wonderful?
Mm, yes,
probably the ultimate wisdom for life.
it
And
is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
that's what I appreciate seeing you get through.
Yes, yes. And can I add to that, from the listener's standpoint, myself, anytime I'm listening and you do pause like that, I'm here with you. Like
Yeah.
I'm loving it actually.
Yes.
And when I do that, when you do that in front of a group, I don't know if anyone asked you, they say, "Oh, the pauses were so good," as if you planned the pauses, as
Right.
opposed to the fact that you allowed the pauses to have
Space.
their
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't know if we're out of time, but I did Toastmasters for a number of years and I
Oops.
learned a lot of mechanics and I do vouch for it. It was wonderful, except I never got the pause. I was trying to get to pauses from a technique standpoint, but
Oh,
the anxiety was always there because
yes.
I wasn't connected to my heart.
Uh-huh.
Once I connected to my heart, that pause and all the ums and ahs that we do count in Toastmasters are gone
Hmm.
because there's no more filler. I just now didn't need to do an or an ah.
Uh-huh. Seamless flow. Beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, we are close to coming to a uh, time when we'll finish up here, but you have Lee, the founder, and you have me, the training director. If there's some burning question you'd like to ask before we get off this time, let
Yeah.
us know.
Or a conversation that you'd like to have.
It's not that I don't, it's that it's so nice to be. The image I'm having is when to join the leadership table,
Uh-huh.
come pull up a chair And that's what I feel your work has helped me do. Claim the chair, be here present as an equal amongst leaders. And I don't mean that with any hierarchy, like I'm stepping into some leadership. No, I guess it's like a personal leadership. It's a personal, like becoming, like wholeness, becoming whole
Yeah.
in both self-reflection and sharing with others. Yeah, that feels so rich to me. And an honor to be here with both of you.
Thank
We
you.
have a phrase, listening becomes you.
Mm.
And leadership through listening. We can see your leadership qualities, Michael. It's quite exciting for me to see that you're helping lead the movement.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you both for having this time together and feeling the threads of the heart coming. We are weaving something beautiful together this particular moment that we will remember, but we're also, I think, have a vision for our futures together. Thank you so much, Michael. And
Nice.
thank you, Lee, for
Thank you,
Thank
Doreen.
you, Doreen. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.